Hello and welcome to the Universal Peace Federation. My name is Ray LaPalkin, and our program today is called Conference of Hope, and this is the third segment of it. And it's really a conference that was held on religious freedom. And although we have the opportunity and the freedom here in America to worship as we want, that's not always the case around the world. For example, in some of the communist nations, Russia, China, and elsewhere, religion is really suppressed. Of course, people put in jail, and even in some cases where they do allow certain aspects of religion or to some degree, usually the Communist Party will appoint the religious figure in charge of that church or that religion. And so they really are, in a sense, dictating what is being told or taught. And then, of course, there's other countries like Iran and Afghanistan where we see that the government and the religious leaders are basically, in many ways, one and the same. And so there's, in a sense, suppression of religion because you're forced to worship in a certain way, a certain style or a certain manner, and you're not given the freedom of the other religions to participate in that country. So we're talking about that suppression as well. And something else to mention, but it's not really what we're talking about so much here today, but of course, even in the United States, there's a lot of persecution of certain religious groups, and that's more on an individual level. In other words, the government is not suppressing the religion, but people are just not sensitive to each other. We see a lot of hate groups rising that are attacking certain religions or organizations. So. But mostly we're focusing on the Conference of Hope is religious freedom around the world. And I'd like to read something from, this is from Reverend Moons. He's one of the co-founders of the Universal Peace Federation. This is from his autobiography. Religion's role is to turn human beings toward goodness and eliminate their evil nature that finds enjoyment in fighting. Examine the major religions of the world. They all hold a peaceful world as their ideal. They all want to see a kingdom of heaven, utopia, or paradise. Religions have different names for this ideal, but they all seek such a world. There are numerous religions in the world, and virtually everyone is divided into countless factions and denominations. So at this time, I wanted to show a video clip of the recent conference that we had, Conference of Hope. Again, this is the third segment of it. And the two speakers here, the first one is Pastor Paula White, and the second one is former Congressman Sam Brownback from Kansas. And he also served as U.S. Ambassador at Large for international religious freedom. And both of them are just very strong advocates in speaking up for religious freedom around the world. So please enjoy the video.
Paula White is a pastor of a megachurch in the United States and has served as a spiritual advisor for U.S. President Donald Trump for 22 years, visiting 120 countries for 37 years, testifying God's walk to the world. And former Ambassador Sam Brownback is an American politician who has served as a governor, senator, and congressman. Please welcome the Pastor Paula White and the Sam Brownback, the former ambassador, with a warm round of applause.
Distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, as we discuss the importance of security and religious freedom today, it is my heartfelt and deep conviction that every human should have the most basic right of religious liberty. One fundamental principle and truth is that our rights do not come from government. They come from God. It was with that spirit and belief as advisor to President Trump that I led the White House Faith and Opportunity Initiative, which established a faith-based office, our liaison, in every cabinet and agency, and worked hard to make sure that people of all faiths had a voice in their government. The President gave an executive order on advancing international religious freedom that solidifies America's own commitment to this critical issue by naming it as a foreign policy priority of the United States and promising that we will respect and vigorously promote this freedom. It is this deep conviction of standing for freedom, of religion that has driven my life work of 38 years in ministry. With this in mind, I want to honor and encourage Mother Moon for her great work as a spiritual leader who loves the Lord and seeks to bring and comfort God's heart in all the conflict areas of the world. Mother Moon, your faith and courage is very moving, especially having passed through the many trials, persecution, and misunderstanding. You and your late husband, Reverend Moon, have led a life of unwavering faith and never vacillated in your commitment to achieving peace through Jesus' fundamental teaching to love your enemies. For this is one of the greatest secrets to achieving reconciliation and forgiveness. Summit 2022 last August was a tremendous success and is growing stronger with each summit as we see the leaders of the world understanding your great role of peace and strengthening families. Thank you, Dr. Young Ho Yoon, for helping fulfill Mother's dream. I've been honored to be a part of this great work and to join Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, President Trump, Prime Minister Hun Sen, President Macky Sall, Prime Minister Brigi Rafini, and many heads of state from Africa, as well as Vice President Pence, Prime Minister Harper, Prime Minister Barroso, Secretary Pompeo, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and the heads of state throughout the world, along with faith leaders, have expressed deep appreciation for the leadership of Mother Moon, for peace, and for strengthening families. That is why it is no surprise that Prime Minister Abe stood with many heads of state in appreciating this work, because it is good for Japan, good for the Republic of Korea, and for America, and good for peace in Northeast Asia and the world. We are not surprised that so many current and former members of the Liberal Democratic Party and other parties in Japan understood that her work with the Universal Peace Federation was so important and collaborated with it. President Trump was so keen on dialogue, and he met Kim Jong-un on 2 occasions directly. Mother Moon went with her late husband to North Korea after much prayer, and in 1991, they met Chairman Kim. Father and Mother Moon, who founded the Washington Times, were seen as very strong anti-communist force and the greatest enemy of North Korea. However, after they met, they were no longer seen as enemies because they came to help North Korea realize peace and prosperity and to join as a member of the family of nations. When I was in South Korea last August for Father Moon's memorial, it was very meaningful that Chairman Kim Jong-un sent flowers and a letter recognizing Father Moon as a true peacemaker and has invited Mother Moon to North Korea. In Japan, such a tragedy occurred when Prime Minister Abe was assassinated. He is so respected throughout the world and was deeply committed to a strong Japan in alliance with America. President Trump and all key leaders in America and throughout the world have the greatest respect for his leadership and the critical role of Japan in relationship to peace in the whole Indo-Pacific. We know that Mother Moon and the work of her movement with UPF and the Family Federation, of which many leaders of the world, including myself, respect and support, has the greatest respect for Japan and its historic role at this time for peace. We are confident that the current Prime Minister and all leadership of Japan will uphold the high principles of defending religious freedom for all faiths. And we want you to know that the world was so deeply moved by the beautiful, deeply peaceful, and honorable funeral of our beloved and cherished Prime Minister Abe. We pray that Ms. Abe and her family were comforted by the great legacy and honor with which Prime Minister Abe was memorialized. We sincerely pray for peace in Northeast Asia and that religious freedom will expand from Japan, the Republic of Korea, America, and all democratic nations to all the nations of the world. God be with you, Mother Moon.
I want to thank you for allowing me to join you today on this very important occasion and discussion. I want to say particular thanks at the outset to the Washington Times Foundation, to UPF and Dr. Moon for their efforts for peace and religious freedom around the world. You know, this rally of hope to stand for religious freedom is central to the future of democracies, and it's central to the future of each of our countries and having a society that can interact with one another. He was at one time imprisoned in North Korea, and so the persecution continues. But that means our fight continues. And that means we've got to continue to fight and to stand up, and particularly, I want to highlight on religious freedom. And that's what we're here today to talk about. Religious freedom is a hallmark of an open society and a democracy. And the United States, Japan, South Korea, key democracies that must stand for religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time. And I want to say, too, at this point in time, this is not one of those rights where you want to confuse it with theology. We're not talking about theology. This was in the 1948 UN Charter of Human Rights that the United States, Japan, South Korea, and virtually every country around the world signed on to. Religious freedom as a hallmark of these human rights. The right for you to do with your own soul as you see fit, or to change what direction you may choose with your own soul. And now, it really is the cornerstone to democracy and cornerstone to the other human rights. With religious freedom, you can build the other human rights off of. Build the freedom of speech, build the freedom of assembly. Most people around the world claim a faith of some type. About 80% of the world's population claims some sort of religious adherence. So you've got a large population, a large majority of the people around the world that seek and want religious freedom to practice their own faith the way they see fit. And yet you have governments and authoritarian regimes pushing the other way, and in ways that are new and I think, frankly, diabolical. Faith is the one institution that has the strength to bring down a government. Faith is the one institution that has enough loyalty from its adherents to stand up to a government. Faith is the one institution that we can build freedom around, human rights and freedom around, of all these other factors. When the Pope went to Poland and he said to the Polish people, "Be not afraid." And when he said those words, the people weren't afraid, but the communists were. They knew what could happen if the people themselves decided that there was something beyond the state. And they did decide there was something beyond the state. And now Poland is free. And the people are free to pursue with their own souls what they see fit. And this can and will happen in China. I want to say, particularly to the democracies that I'm speaking at, people that live in democracies today, the United States, Japan, South Korea, others, that this has got to be something we stand firmly for. And if we walk away from any piece of religious freedom, the Chinese will pounce right back and say, "Look at your hypocrisy. You may say you have religious freedom, but you don't have it for this particular group." They're going to push back aggressively on this if we don't stand full-throated for it. And again, we all don't agree on theology. There's many different views of how one should seek or pursue God, or what their theological bent should be, and that's not the issue. The issue is the freedom to pursue. And with this is one of the strongest weapons that democracy has. So stand firm, don't fall back, And don't fall for traps of saying, well, we don't agree with this group theologically or that group, and everybody else is fine. System doesn't work that way. The only way the system works is if everybody is guaranteed religious freedom. It's religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time. Stand firm. Stand strong. Keep fighting for it. It's critically, critically important. Thank you.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video. I'd like to read a little bit more from some of our co-founder, Reverend Moon's words on religion. Religion exists for the sake of the world. The purpose of religion is to establish the framework of peace for humankind. That is why religions pursue world peace. Yet world peace is not only for human beings. God too must rejoice in it. This must be a world in which the peace that God desires is in accord with the peace that human beings desire. These two goals come into accord not centered on the people of the world alone and not centered on God alone. There's only one way that God and people both want to be governed, and that is the way of love. God's bitter anguish up until now is that he could not be governed by true love. Since God is the true king, he wants to be governed by a person with true love, even if that person is of the lowest rank. There is nothing that true love cannot permeate. There is no gap in true love. The fall gave rise to gaps between light and darkness, front and back, and left and right, but true love can traverse them all. Philanthropy, as we witness it today, originated from a central trend of religious thought in history. Religion, in a broad sense, refers to the mainstream of life that centers on God's side. That is why it advocates love, benevolence, civic virtue, and goodness. Religion does not pursue its own ambitions. Rather, it radiates goodness by benefiting the public. Through this, it transforms the spirits of the evil world and restores the evil world to the side of heaven. It does not directly fight evil, but promotes harmony and peace centered on goodness, and so creates an atmosphere of reconciliation. In order to deal with this evil world, the religious world needs to make a new beginning. That is, in order to influence the environment, it has to invest something new. Harmony, unity, and peace can only come when religious community can continually work for each other's sake, rather than telling their believers to work for them. This is the mainstream thought that has guided good religions throughout history. The objective of religion is to build the world of peace. Where will God find the stronghold of peace? It is not in America, nor Russia, nor any other nation. The place is the original mind of human beings. That means we should discard everything having to do with the fallen world and return to the standard of our original mind. It means to return to our inner self. That's why Jesus said the kingdom of God is within us. It means unless we liberate the goodness in our heart, it will be impossible for us to realize an ideal world, a world of happiness. In history, it is religion that established this standard. God needed to guide people to the way of peace. During the course of history, his efforts to guide people to the way of peace must have left traces. The traces of God's activities are found in religion. True peace starts from me. From where in me does it start? It does not start within my heart by itself, but from the heart when it unites with God. Therefore, I need to control myself. No matter how you look at people, it's clear we are not causal beings, but resultant beings. That being the case, we need to be completely one with our origin, God. But we have not been able to become one with God. Cause and result need to be one. They should not oppose each other. From that perspective, you cannot take yourself, who is a resultant being, as a starting point of oneness. The cause is the starting point. The historical mission of religion has been to create that relationship. God's objective is world peace. Whether you ask Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, Jesus, the founder of Christianity, or the Prophet Muhammad, the founder of Islam, you will get the same answer. The purpose of religion is peace. It is to bring about one world, an ideal world. Throughout history, the political world persecuted religion. Politics is in the position of the body. The arena of activity based on the body does not recognize God. While focusing on the original mind takes one into the realm of theism, focusing on the body leads to the realm of atheism. These two realms are fighting with each other, but the religions must not fight one another, rather they must come together. In God there is no concept of struggle, there is only the concept of peace. All religious groups that fight other religions are destined to disappear. Humankind will not sustain their existence. They will dissipate entirely. So we're not promoting like a one world religion. We're promoting that all religions continue to practice their own faith, whatever it might be. However, to recognize that there is one God, and that by working and cooperating in harmony with one another, then we could overcome this religious suppression that we're seeing in many parts of the world. And I think the United States can take a big role in that. So if these thoughts resonate with you, please get in touch with us. My contact information has been up on the screen. And our website is us.upf.org. You can get in touch with us there. And I also always like to offer a complimentary copy of the biographies of our co-founders, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon and Reverend Sun Myung Moon. Please get in touch with me if you'd like a copy of these. So thank you so much for joining us today.